What's up, it's Julia and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is all about acting advice. We're gonna talk about my favorite free online resources, dealing with comparison and working on your mindset, my favorite acting podcasts, and more. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already to see more acting related content. And without further ado, let's get into the video. First, we are going to talk about podcasts. I have been listening to so many acting related podcasts lately, and I know I talked about a few of these in my last acting advice video, but the list has definitely expanded. I would say my favorite acting related podcast right now is In the Envelope, the Actress Podcast, sponsored by Backstage. Every interview I've listened to on this podcast has been really great. I'm trying to think of how I found this podcast. I think I was searching up Beanie Feldstein. I wanted to listen to some of her interviews, and so I listened to her interview on In the Envelope, and I just subscribed to the podcast. I'm looking at my Spotify right now, but I just started listening to Neil Patrick Harris's episode the other day. What I like about this podcast is that the episodes are usually between 45 minutes to an hour, so you're able to get a lot of insight into the actor and their career. I also love Just for Variety with Mark Malkin. I think I found this one because I was wanting to learn more about David Alvarez's story, and so I listened to his interview, and I again subscribed to the podcast because I saw that they have a ton of really cool guests. For me, it's more so actually about the interviewer and the kind of questions they ask and just the way they steer the interview. Variety Awards Circuit is another great one. I love the podcast Tell Me with Ellen Pompeo because I'm a huge Grey's Anatomy fan. I just love listening to her talk. I think she's so smart and such a powerful person, and also her voice is just so nostalgic, obviously, from watching the show for however many, I was gonna say 17 years. I definitely did not start watching the show when I was 3. My favorite episodes of Tell Me are probably the interviews with Yara Shahidi and Debbie Allen. Those are two women that I deeply admire, and I follow their journeys pretty closely. And so hearing two people that I admire having a conversation is just super cool. The Hollywood Reporter has a podcast called Awards Chatter, which I listen to pretty often. I love Quinta Brunson. I think she is so incredible, and I listened to her episode of this podcast. I don't know if that's how I found this podcast because I've been doing a lot of research on her, but I definitely recommend checking out Awards Chatter if you haven't heard of it. Again, another platform with pretty lengthy interviews of people, pretty incredible careers. They just did an interview with Adam Sandler, who I'm actually, this is for Hustle. So I'm actually going to the SAG screening tonight for Adam Sandler's movie. He's going to be doing a Q&A after the movie, and so I'm taking my dad because he's a huge Adam Sandler fan, but that'll be in the Actor Diaries episode for this month. I just saw that he did a podcast on Awards Chatter. Anyway, What's My Frame by Laura Linda Bradley is a podcast I actually haven't listened to yet, but I recently came across it and I put it on my list, so I thought I would share it with you guys. But it looks like she interviews people from all different aspects of the industry: casting directors, writers, producers, showrunners, cinematographers. So I'm excited to check this one out because I want to make sure I am getting perspectives not just from actors, whether it's an agent or a cinematographer or a DP or just anyone who's actually not doing what you're doing, because it just gives you so much perspective and insight into what the other jobs look like, which I think even if you're just focusing on being an actor, that's super important to know. The last podcast in this category is On Purpose with Jay Shetty. Now, this is not necessarily, it's not an acting podcast, but it is a life podcast, and it is definitely my favorite podcast of all podcasts. Jay does have a lot of actors on the podcast, so you might hear some acting insight when he brings an actor on, but I just think this podcast is so great for anyone to listen to regardless of your occupation, because the conversations are really deep and it goes beneath the surface, not just, career, but who you are as a person and how you live your life. So if you haven't checked out Jay Shetty, I highly recommend. Okay, now let's talk about free acting resources on YouTube. My top favorite resource that I am sharing in this video, honestly, it's my favorite resource in general right now, and it also happens to be free, is the SAG Foundation's YouTube channel. You do not have to be a member of SAG to watch their YouTube videos, and you guys, I cannot stress enough how beneficial this resource has been for me. So basically, SAG Foundation has a YouTube channel where they post a bunch of different Zoom conversations, whether it's with publicists or agents or actors. The conversations are so insightful, and I have learned so much from watching these videos. I always try to have one on when I'm doing something in my room because they post so much content and I just want to watch everything. Sang. They have videos about time management for actors and tips from acting coaches. I cannot stress enough how valuable this resource is, and if you have access to YouTube, you have access to this channel. I just listened to Dove Cameron's interview on the Zach Sang show, and oh my gosh, I think it might be my favorite interview of anyone ever. I am so in awe of Dove Cameron and how in tune she is with herself and life. She is so expansive and open and curious and creative. It felt like I was a fly on the wall watching a therapy session. I'm so inspired by this interview to expose myself deeper when I am the interviewee and to go deeper when I am the interviewer. And I guess this is the perfect lead-in. For those of you who might not know, I have an interview series on my channel called Behind the Resume. I am so passionate about having conversations with artists that are deeper than what are your credits and what are your success. I want to know what your morning routine looks like. I want to know what your struggles have been. I want to know the times in which you were really close to giving up and then something happened that, you know, propelled you forward. So if you're interested in those kinds of conversations, definitely check out Behind the Resume. That will also be linked in the description. Okay, moving on to Instagram. To be honest, I used to enjoy being on Instagram a lot more than I do now. I don't know if you can also relate, but I have recently come across some authors on Instagram that post excerpts of their writing that are so poetic and deep and touching that really do impact my day. You do not have to be an actor to resonate with this writing, but I do feel that so much of what these authors post aligns so perfectly with whatever I'm going through in my personal life, but honestly more so my career. My favorite account, you guys, I am so passionate about her, Xana Keithley. If you do not follow her on Instagram, run, go follow her. If I'm not in the right headspace, like if I'm distracted and I'm just on Instagram and I see one of her posts, I will literally save it for later. That's how much her writing deeply impacts and affects me. It is brilliant. I also love Young Pueblo, Brianna Weist, Bianca Sparacino, and Jamie Barron. Let's talk about classes. Not all, but there are a lot of acting studios that allow you to audit a class, and I cannot recommend doing this enough because acting classes are not cheap and they are an investment, whether you are driving there or paying for them or just an investment, you know, spiritually. And so I definitely recommend auditing a class if you can. I have a bad habit of judging something new, whether it's a class or a teacher, within like the first 0.2 seconds and then already deciding if I want to continue or not. That's the thing about auditing, is sometimes you do need a few more classes to really get into the groove and feel comfortable with the other students. But if studios allow you to audit for free, it's a really great opportunity to meet new people and learn from someone new and to just see if the class is a good fit. Some acting studios also have free intro classes, and that's really great, especially if it's on Zoom because it's super convenient. Sometimes the people who run the studio will get on Zoom, talk about what the studio has to offer, and honestly, the more that you learn about different studios and different teachers, the better. It is definitely a journey to find the right class. I was in a really great class for a long time, but I have been looking for the right class for me for over a year now, and I've just been kind of hopping around and trying different teachers and trying different schools. The last topic in this video is arguably the most important, and that is mindset. I want to say a little disclaimer before we get into this. I am trying to implement these things every day. These are things that I journal about. These are things that I remind myself of, but I really feel that you can believe that everything happens for a reason. You can believe that what's meant for you won't pass you by, and still get frustrated and still get anxious and still feel that your dreams are so far. Everything I'm about to say is kind of obviously what I want to share, but also what I need to remind myself of, especially today with some things that are going on in my personal life and in my career. Let's talk about comparison. I feel like I talk about this all the time on my channel, and honestly, it frustrates me how much I compare myself when I know that it's a highlight reel, when I know I'm not seeing the full story. So something that I try to do is to literally put myself in their shoes and to think about someone else who does not know me, does not know what my day-to-day looks like. Even with all that I share on social media, it's a fraction of the truth, right? Not saying that it's fake, but it's just not the full story. So if I put myself in the person's shoes of who I'm comparing myself to, and I think of someone else looking at what you see of me on social media, and then thinking that something came easily or something happened overnight or anything, I would just be so sad because it's just not the truth. If you think about the skills that you had to work really, really hard for, something that did not come easily to you, something that you've had to overcome a lot of mental obstacles to be able to do, whether it's sing on stage or audition for an agent or literally anything. Say you finally get that opportunity after working so hard for however many years, and you post, you know, on social media that you are starring in a play or anything, and then someone else, not that they have bad intentions, they just see your post and they're like, gosh, like I really want that to be me. It just looks like it comes so easy for them. And I mean, we all do it. It's kind of the nature of social media. But when I put myself in that position and thinking about my own journey of things and how long some goals have taken me to be met, it would just break my heart if someone else saw a dance video and thought like, oh gosh, you know, she just went to one class and that happened, when that could not be farther from the truth. It's been quite the journey, but a journey I'm so proud of and so grateful for, and a journey I wouldn't trade. And I'm sure we all feel that way. Our hardships and our challenges make the successes that much sweeter. But the thing with social media and comparing your full journey to someone else's highlights is that you don't get to see all of the tears. You don't get to see all the times that you're knocked down and you have to get up again. Yet, I still compare myself to other people. So I don't really have an answer. I think actually the answer is less time on social media, which was going to be my next point, literally putting limits on your social media. But that doesn't totally work because I did put the 20 minutes on my Instagram, and I'm on Instagram for way more than 20 minutes a day. When you see people doing things that you are working towards or doing things that you dream of doing, I think the healthiest way to look at it is to allow yourself to be so inspired and let it be like a seed of belief for you that it's possible. That is what can be so inspiring about social media, because you're exposed to so many different types of people who are doing so many different cool things. And I remember when I got Instagram and I started seeing these kids who were dancing and at ALDC and Millennium and doing commercials and doing all these different things, it really motivated me so much and it sparked so many new passions. But when it comes to comparison, especially as an actor, it is very, very challenging to remember that you are on your own journey and your own journey is beautiful and you are right on time. I don't want to say that it's challenging, I don't want to affirm that, but if you struggle with comparing yourself to others, I understand because I do as well, but I'm really, really trying to shift my energy on just being inspired as I continue to work towards my goals. I certainly struggle with the balance of being a well-rested human being and also having a career as an artist, as an actor. All I want to do is research and study and immerse myself in art, which is incredible. What I'm learning is that there has to be a balance to be a sane human being, because if all you think about 24 hours of a day is an audition you just had, which has kind of been me for the past week, you're literally going to explode. And exploding is not fun. As actors, we are vessels of the human experience. But if we don't have many human experiences, how much of yourself can you bring? I am told so often that the balance of being a happy, healthy human being that has other interests outside of the industry is so important for your career, but also just for your overall life. Because at the end of the day, I just want to be happy. I just want to follow my passions and be happy while doing it. And sometimes the journey of following the passions can be really hard, and the road bumps hurt when you trip and fall on your face. There are so many things to talk about when it comes to mindset, and honestly that can be its own separate video. So comment down below if you want to see that. But this is going to be the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!